Today we ask the age-old question, what came first, the chicken or the mech? Because in this video, I'm making a chicken mech. Now if I wanted to make it easy on myself, I could just take this action figure that's missing its head but has everything else, and just stick my chicken on top. But that wouldn't make for a very interesting video, now would it? So instead what I'll do is I'll take off the legs and the abdomen, and I'll just use the chest and the arms for this build. I'll build everything else from scratch. For the legs, I'll be using a few Gundam accessory parts to make the base. After a bit of cutting and shaping, I'm able to get these two pieces to fit together. This will become the upper part of my leg, or the thigh area. For the lower half of the leg, I'll be using this Gundam beam rifle. It's a bit too long though, so I'll cut it in half and use the two halves of the front barrel to add some thickness to the upper leg. Then I can reattach the upper leg parts together and move on to attaching everything else. I drill an extra hole in the angled part of the beam rifle to give the leg that digitigrade bend like a chicken would have. I make a small hydraulic piston out of some styrene and then I attach it into the back of the leg. There's still a few rough edges that I'll cover with another accessory piece that I'll cut in half and use to cover two separate areas. One on the very top of the leg and then one in sort of the knee area. Then a few pieces of styrene cover up the rest of the holes and add a bit of detail. Using some thin styrene and this oval hole punch, I cut out some detail pieces and attach them with super glue to cover up the seams and to just look cool in certain areas. This blue circle will become the hip joint that will attach the legs to the main body. This red bead and this half wood bead will become the ankles, and then they'll attach with a wire. Now that this first leg is complete, all I have to do is build a second one. For the feet, I thought it would be funny to make them look like robotic chicken feet, so I start with a styrene strip to make the toes. I'm using a very small drill bit and drilling two holes in the styrene, and then I round over the edges with a sanding stick. Using the curved side of my flush cutters, I cut the styrene into a 1/4 inch section. The cutters leave a rounded edge that I can refine into a matching shape with some sanding. This piece is the inner section of the toe. There's two pieces, so I make sure that the holes go all the way through. I repeat the same process again, only this time I only have to drill about 1/8 of an inch because I don't want the holes to go all the way through, since this will be the front of the foot and I don't want to see any holes. Then using some small wire that matches the drill bit that I used, I can wire up the two styrene pieces together. Now these toes are a little fragile, but I wanted them to be posable to better adjust to the base later. Now here's a full one, and all I have to do is make 4 per foot. The base of the foot is another piece of styrene that I drill matching holes in to attach the toes to the base. To give the chicken foot some structure and height, I add this round plastic bit. Now if I were to attach the feet directly to the ankles as is, there would be this gap. So I take 2 small plastic caps, I cut out the center from each, and then I attach them to the ankles to help cover up that gap. Now the chicken already has a pretty decent paint job, but I still want to give it a custom paint job. So I start by gluing it to a paint stick and then giving it a coat of flat black primer and a zenithal highlight with a white spray paint. I paint the base color of the chicken's feathers with this gray acrylic, and then I move on to a pure white and add some feather effects with my paintbrush. The gray underlayer is supposed to add some contrast and look like shadows under the feathers. I'll use red, yellow, and black to paint the rest of the chicken. This gray contrast paint will add some extra shadows and darken some of the colors. I'm calling this section All the Rest because it covers the abdomen, chest, arms, hands, neck, and head. Each one didn't take too long, so I just rolled them all up into one section. The abdomen is made from some Gundam and action figure parts, as well as a few beads to fill the gaps. Once I set the arms to the right position, I can lock the joints in place with some thin super glue, and then I can remove the shoulder armor, the hands, and the gauntlets. I'll be replacing the hands with some Gundam hands since they have much more detail and different poses to choose from. These original hands also looked a bit too large and unproportional. I'll fill this neck area with some 2-part epoxy putty and then add the neck, which is made from part of a spray bottle. This is the epoxy I'll be using today, and it cures in about 20 minutes. I'll also add the extra epoxy to the underside of the chest, and then using some wires and super glue, I can attach the abdomen to the chest. Now that it's in place, I can add some pistons and tubes made from styrene, metal rods, and armature wire. Originally, I was going to attach the chicken just to the head like this, but he was looking a little uncomfortable, so I made him a little nest using some thin wire that'll attach like this for the chicken to sit in while he's controlling the mech. Everything is ready for painting, and it all gets a wire brushing to make sure that the paint sticks, and then it gets sent outside for a coat of flat black primer and a coat of white. This is the color scheme that I decided to go with, sort of a military green kind of thing. I start with airbrushing before moving on to hand painting. For the airbrushing, I start with my lightest colors so I don't have to clean as much between color changes. Now the airbrush has been a real game changer for me since it allows me to add fast, even coats of base color without having to buy expensive spray paints, and I get much more control. I'll have a link to the site I got this airbrush from, as well as a coupon code for 10% off your order down in the description. I think this is a good time to give a shout out to my patrons over on my Patreon. Thank you all so much. Your support helps me purchase materials for new builds and keeps this channel going. So seriously, thank you. If you would like to join these wonderful people, you can join my Patreon. I'll have links at the end of this video, in the description, and on my page. By joining the core builders, not only do you get a shout out in every video, but you also get access to progress photos and teasers that no one else gets to see. And if you're enjoying this video, please consider dropping a like, consider subscribing, commenting, sharing, all that fun stuff that helps the YouTube algorithm pick up this video and show it off more. I've got hundreds of other videos on my channel, so take some time after this one to check them out if you're having a good time. The rest of the painting is pretty straightforward, so I'll pop back in when I need to say something. I start the weathering process by using this brown contrast paint to add some more color variation to the nest. I add on a layer, and then using a paper towel, I dab away most of it from the surface. For the mech, I'm going to be starting with this black wash. It's a concentrated mix of black acrylic paint and water. I add some to that brown contrast that I used before, and then I dilute it with more water. Starting with a concentrated black wash allows me to dilute it to fit the needs of each project. I use a mop brush to apply it all over the parts, and then I dab away the excess with a paper towel. I'm going to add some decals from my collection. I should have done this before the black wash, but I kind of forgot, so I'm doing it now. These are all water decals, and I'm still pretty new to them, but I've been having a really fun time collecting them from my local hobby shop and using them in these projects to add extra details and scale that I would never be able to create by hand painting. Once the water has all dried, I seal this layer of weathering and decals with a matte clear coat before moving on to the final weathering and assembly. The final layer of weathering comes courtesy of these weathering kits. I use a sponge brush to pick up a mix of this black and rust pigment, and then I just rub it into the surface of the armor. I make sure to add color to the decals to help blend them into the surface as well. We're in the home stretch here as I start to assemble the mech back together. The very last step before attaching it all to the base is to add one final layer of chicken weathering to the back of the neck using some white and brown paint, and with that, this project is officially done, dusted, and feathered. It's finally time to let this project fly. Okay, I'll stop egging this on and show you the final result now. Well, if my puns didn't scare you off and you're still here, then thank you for watching and sticking around to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel for hundreds of other videos. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, put them down in the comment section and I'll try to get back to you. I do read every single comment and I try to respond if I can. I have links in the description to my Amazon storefront with all the tools and materials that I use during these videos. Thank you again so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.